Hey everyone, Kuro the Artist here. So, as viewers of the channel might know, I've been on a hiatus lately with uploading, just working on the final 3 episodes of 5YL, as well as And Beyond the Movie. You can get more information on that by visiting our socials, or if you'd like to support these projects, please consider joining our Patreon or YouTube membership. You'll get weekly updates and see a ton of behind-the-scenes making of the projects as we go about it. So today I was just sitting here working on them, trying to make sure that these projects are getting along, and all of a sudden my notifications are blowing up like crazy. And it turns out Film Theory uploaded a Ben10 video, and, people were wondering what my thoughts would be. And for one, that's awesome. Like, I'm in full support of any and all new Ben10 content coming out. Film Theory, they seem like that they create pretty well produced content for 13 million subscribers. I would love to do a whole breakdown style video where I really go into the nitty gritty and analyze it, fact check things if I can and whatnot. But due to our hiatus, and this was unplanned, I think a live stream would still be pretty fun. I've never just done a straight up live stream real-time reaction before. I have not seen this video yet already. I've only been made aware of its existence, so y'all are gonna see my thoughts and opinions unfold in real time. I have no idea what the theory is, or other than Ben10's Omnitrix is deadly. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not even sure I've seen a Film Theory video. I feel like I must have. At some point in time, I must have. I know Ryan O.R. Ash is pretty big into them. I think Kellen was in an episode. I think I remember hearing that. But regardless, and doing this live will also be beneficial in case there is some Film Theory quirks or different things I should be aware of that y'all can fill me in on in the chat. So I'll also be trying to check the chat as much as I can. But yeah, so I'm just gonna dive right into this and we'll see. I'm excited.
The Omnitrix is destroying Ben10.
Oh wow, so already that's really cool that they're animating Ben here. Look at that, you can see his eyes move.
The Omnitrix is
and
destroying
facial expression change.
Ben10.
And they also even put the logo, the 10 side next to Ben. In the official logo, it's directly underneath, so their editors had to do some work there. Already I'm loving this presentation. I'm very excited for this. Oh, and please let me know if my microphone volume, or if the video volume, if either one of them is too loud or too quiet, I can make the adjustments.
Dig into the lore of this series and actually look at the science of what's going on with this handy little device, you'll realize that Ben10 might be digging himself a deeper grave.
This is so sick. I'm already super almost overstimulated by how well the editing quirks is. They got that vial in here. It's even transparent. You can see the Omnitrix through the glass.
With this handy little device, you'll realize that
That's
Ben10
neat.
might be digging himself a deeper grave every single time he's using it.
I wonder if it's also to try to get around the copyright. Okay, so enough of the editing analysis. Let's pay attention to the video part. So Omnitrix might be killing Ben. That's the theory. Maybe. Also, I just realized they drew heat blasts. Right, this is not a breakdown video. Okay.
And that could result in a fate even worse than death.
That's sick. I like it.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory. The show
Look at that. Look at that. Okay, I'm sorry. This is a very well-made video already. This
That's
is
no
fantastic.
ordinary kid, because an alien device stuck to my wrist and did what it did. And it
Okay, another thing. Cropping around hair is always very difficult. I'm always impressed by good hair crops, but he's wearing the Omnitrix on the wrong arm. Button's facing the other way.
wants to challenge you to transform that subscribe button in 5 seconds. You ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you
Sure.
manage to transform in time? So if you
got
didn't
me.
pick it up, today we are
I'll subscribe.
finally cracking open the absolute classic that is the Ben10 franchise. This Cartoon Network series is all about a 10-year-old named Ben Tennyson.
It's a good font choice, too.
When he finds an extra
And look at the border. Look at this. Holy shit. Man, maybe I should watch more Film Theory. I'm just very, very impressed and amused by how this is put together.
terrestrial weapon called the Omnitrix while out on a walk in the woods. With this device, he can transform into any alien on a genetic level, each species with their own unique abilities. Speed, flight, strength, durability, shooting fire from fingertips.
It does seem very classic series. Okay, well, There we go, Alien X. I was gonna say, like, I'm wondering if this theory is just built around the classic series, but here we got Omniverse Alien X, so I guess they're stretching to all reaches of the lore. It also makes you wonder, like, how well versed film theory might be in Ben 10, or if they just like only researched Ben 10 for the sake of this video. So I'm wondering, like, what they're like. Would they know that, like, the reboot, the 2016 reboot, is a different continuity? So that's gonna be interesting. I'm wondering, like, how much of a Ben 10 fan they are, or if this, like, they are only doing this just for the sake of the video.
Rewriting entire galaxies from scratch. You know, the basics for crime fighting. Basically, if there's any superpower you can imagine, there's an alien for it. So Ben teams up with his cousin Gwen, who has magical talents, and their grandpa Max, who already knows a suspicious amount about alien life and technology, to do heroics across the world. And from there, the entire franchise follows Ben's journey as he matures and masters his newfound powers to defend Earth from threats both domestic and extraterrestrial. As a proud 90s kid, I came to the Ben 10 franchise a little late and didn't realize.
Okay, yeah, see, he's holding a reboot Diamond Head figure, so but he's admitting, like, he's answering my question too, which is fantastic. Like, how much do you know the show? He says not so much. It was a little past his time, which is perfectly understandable. It's interesting they put a drop shadow on the Diamond Head figure, but not on him.
Just how powerful a series it was. Seriously, I was shocked by the sheer amount of content that's been produced by this concept. 5 whole TV shows, 5 movies, a bunch of TV specials, crossovers, video games. I actually didn't know this, but Ben 10 is one of the highest earning media franchises in history, with billions in revenue.
And can you imagine they're still not doing shit with the show right now? I mean, we got the Dynamite comic. We got Hot Topic, we got Daylight Curfew. Things are happening, so I do want to look on the bright side. But, I mean, it is kind of crazy how not only popular Ben 10 is, but by how financially beneficial it is. And, you know, they're not doing much with it. I'm just saying.
Shoulder to shoulder with titans like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Muppets. And it's ahead of the likes of
I thought it was pronounced Caribbean.
Superman, Shrek, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Ben 10 is flourishing, and it's one of those rare franchises that grew up with its audience. Seriously, some of the jokes made in later series are just out of pocket.
Here it comes.
Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No. I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
While other parts leaned into some gnarly looking sequences that
I'm just saying, like, I'm super over that joke. Like, I get it, it's funny, but also, like, it's when you're involved in the community, you see that joke like at least once or twice a week. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, remember when Kevin said the car thing? Yeah, we get it.
We're basically body horror. Absolutely brutal, and I am here for it. But best of all, with so many episodes across so many series, you know that there's a ton of lore to dive into here in theory.
They even made a fake book of it. I regardless of if this theory works out or not, this is already a fantastic video.
About. And right off the bat, there's one thing in this series that really caught my attention. The device that this whole franchise
that he wears on his arm.
The Omnitrix. Yeah, when you really sit down to think about what this device is and what it actually does, it's horrifying. Get this. Theoretically, the Omnitrix would basically be killing Ben with every transformation. Yeah, every single one. By trying to play hero and live vicariously through all of these alien transformations, Ben would be digging himself a deeper hole every time he tries to save the world. Don't believe me? Well, get ready to fight some crime, loyal theorists, because it's theory time. So the best way to start diving deep into the ill effects of the Omnitrix would be to discuss what exactly the Omnitrix is.
Oh, thank you for the donation. Making a Ben 10 manga based on the VR MMO genre. Interesting. Neat. More Ben 10 projects. All the power to you.
And what it does. Because let me tell you, in my time exploring the iceberg of lore that came packaged with Ben 10,
I wonder if they watched any of my videos for this.
On giving. This tiny little device on Ben's wrist is much more than meets the eye. For example, did you know that according to series creator Duncan Rouleau, this thing operates fast?
That's neat. I like how they're really trying to put all the details in, but I mean, creator, co-creator, it's the same thing. You know, Duncan made Ben 10.
Rouleau, this thing operates faster than the speed of light? Yeah.
So this is interesting because this there's always, like, you know, a certain level of tiers for what's acceptable in canon in Ben 10. So while Duncan's fact right here could absolutely be canon, and we technically can't prove otherwise, it's still never part of the actual show. So I'm wondering how much show-only lore versus how many, like, writer statements or pop-up trivia or stuff. So that does make me very interested on where they're going to get their sources for their theories from this point forward, because there's probably statements out there that just about every creator said that is not true. This is one of the ones that could be true. So I guess we'll get to see.
This little thing is so powerful that it breaks the laws of physics. But that's just the beginning. In the original series, we're given incredibly little information about how exactly the Omnitrix works. I mean,
in the whole series, we're given little information.
All right then, Omnitrix, keep your secrets. But despite this, we can learn a lot given what we see in the show. For example, there's both a timeout feature and a cooldown period between transformations.
Look at that.
So its power is heavily restricted, at least to start out with. And no matter what Ben tries, it won't come off. Though Ben starts out with a roster of just 10 aliens he can transform into, Ben10, I see what you did there. There are over 1 million inside.
Who
Very
knows how
true.
many more alien hero dudes are inside this thing?
It's also not the most
Yeah, it
durable-
does seem extremely classic series focused. Like, I'm pretty sure aside from like that one shot of Omniverse Alien X, this is all just clips from season 1 of Ben 10. But of course, I saw Shock Rock there. You know, the editing is fantastic, but I imagine they didn't want to have to source out all like 200 plus episodes of the show
or accurate
just to
device,
have
considering
some
that Ben
B-roll
tried to
going. You
jailbreak
know,
it
that's
with
asking a lot.
screwdriver. Yeah, just like the normal screwdriver. And it's glitchy and known to have a mind of its own. Yeah, usually when Ben finds himself between a shock rock and a hard place, you can pet
Yeah,
it.
see, I'm wondering if they know that's not like the same Ben though, like Ben and Shock Rock. In fact, I kind of paused during that sentence. Let
Between
me.
a shock rock. Glitchy and known to have a mind of its own. Yeah, usually when Ben finds himself between a shock rock and a hard place, you can bet it's the Omnitrix doing something weird. But
That's such a Ryan joke. That's so. When Ryan watches this, he's gonna love that.
when it comes to figuring out how exactly this thing works, the series' big bad evil guy and Ben's
Look at that,
arch
the
nemesis
mist.
Vilgax is the first to provide us any useful details. How? Well, because when he first meets Ben, Vilgax is disappointed and surprised that Ben already has the device for a very specific reason.
Yes, the Omnitrix is already merged with your own DNA.
Wait, hello? What? Yeah, in case you missed that, the Omnitrix merged with Ben's DNA, and that's a huge deal. Later in that same episode, we see a scan of Ben, and the Omnitrix has completely affected Ben's entire body. From
Right, which you know, as we see, at least aesthetically later on in the show, like Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, Omniverse, the Omnitrix can come off extremely easy. In fact, there was that one Omniverse episode when Ben was de-aged in Arrested Development. The Omnitrix was like loosely hanging off of him like a bracelet. I don't think that actually affects any of the functionality of the Omnitrix. I believe it's still like, you know, supposed to be bonded to Ben. But it's always disappointing whenever the Omnitrix just comes off. Like, I wish it was as bonded, like, throughout the whole show as it is here.
the double helix of his DNA to his tippy toes, not just the wrist that the Omnitrix latched onto. It's literally become a part of him in a way that seems pretty sus, like some sort of parasitic organism stuck to Ben. And
Yeah, but only in the first series, which is when it was cool.
Come on, the visual similarities to classic alien symbiotic parasites can't really be ignored, right? The Omnitrix moves on its own. It liquefies into an amorphous goo that jumps on him,
Yeah,
latches
right.
onto his arm, and won't let go. It also literally changes Ben's biology enough to do impossible things to protect itself and
There we
its
go.
host.
Alien
Like,
Force
there's an
clip.
episode of Ben 10 Alien Force called Single-Handed, where the villain of the week actually chops off Ben's hand. But don't you worry, both Ben and his hand are totally fine. In fact, he can still feel it and move it, and so he does, blindly fighting back. That takes the form of just kind of, you know, like punching the air a bit, but hey, at least he's trying. And what's more, that same episode shows that the Omnitrix has a will to survive even without Ben control.
I like that they bring this up because this is kind of like a one-off episode, and it's pretty notable in the fandom, but to like the average person, I imagine they have no idea about this episode. And it does open up a lot of the speculation on how sentient the Omnitrix is. Like, if the Omnitrix is like walking around, Ben's not doing that. You even see it turn its head and look sometimes. So it does play into like the actual like sentience or the artificial intelligence of the Omnitrix. So they did a fair amount of research so far. The reboot clip and dipping into writer statements does get a little shaky unless you know what you're talking about. So I'm hoping that doesn't discredit anything. Whatever. I want this to be right.
Controlling it.
I'm on board. They put a lot of effort into this video. I really hope it's
Motor
valid.
functions to make decisions.
So
of
far,
its
so
own.
good, though.
Going into stealth mode, spotting potential danger,
Yep.
running for its life, climbing a tree to escape danger, and even tracking down help. On top of that, for the
2
first
buttons
couple
on the
of
border. Yep. I mean, you gotta. In a way, that's also authentic too, because Ben 10's always like mistakenly putting buttons on each side of the device, so they got 2 buttons on the border. So that's understandable. Thank you for the donation, Jordan. Couldn't get into 5YL. Appreciate everything you do for keep the fandom alive. Keep up the great work. I love it. Thank you very much. You know, 5YL's not for everybody. Maybe you can give it another chance sometime. But hey, I appreciate you being here, and at least some things that we do click with you.
Even tracking down help. On top of that, for the first couple of seasons, we're straight up led to believe that it can't be removed at all. Ever. And when it does come off, it's literally peeled off of Ben's wrist in one of the most horrific ways imaginable. And here
right.
I have to remind us all that
but again, only in the classic series. I'm wondering if they're gonna maybe it doesn't matter to their theory, but like it does come off extremely easy in the later shows.
This is a kid's show. Like, dang. Over.
Ad.
It's not a natural storm that will pass.
Oh, this actually looks kind of neat.
Void that threatens.
Okay, I'll skip
Overall,
it.
this is just a weird
If I wasn't live streaming, I was gonna watch that.
device that does strange things. But here's the thing. At this point, when it's like taken off of Ben's wrist, Ben could walk away. It's off. He's free. But he doesn't. Instead, after the battle and the episode is over, Ben jumps at the opportunity to slap it right back on where he feels it belongs. Was this just an excuse to have some drama in an episode and extend
Did they crop out that
just
frame?
An excuse to have
Wow.
some drama in an episode and extend
We are almost halfway through the video though, and I feel like I've yet to get what their theory is. Maybe it's like they're trying to make this video approachable for anybody. You know, with an audience of 13.3 million subscribers, I imagine, you know, not everybody has seen Ben 10. So they're doing a pretty good job breaking down the series to new people. They're making this very consumable, depending on your knowledge of Ben 10.
A franchise that's been very successful for Cartoon Network? I mean, yes, but on top of that, we're just a couple seasons into this show, and the
That's a
Omnitrix
great
is
graphic.
already more
That's a
than
great
just a cool
graphic.
toy or a tool. It's a part of Ben's identity, enough so that he can't wait to continue his dangerous antics with it. And that's just the beginning. The further the franchise goes, the more the Omnitrix becomes part of Ben's self-image. For example, he starts to view his alien transformations
Hey,
as just
look at that.
extensions of himself. He's devastated when any of them are destroyed.
This is kind of a wild clip to show if you don't know Ben 10 though. Like if you don't know Ben 10 and you're watching this, you would be like, what is that? Because they're presenting this, what he's talking about has nothing to do with this clip. This is malware ripping feedback out of Ben. So like, I'm wondering to non-Ben 10 fans who watch film theory if they think this is like normal, like this is something that can happen when this is a very, very specific scenario.
And he names them all like they're pets or children.
Hey, what do you call this guy?
I don't know. Absolute zero.
Pets or children is an interesting analogy. I never really thought about it like that. But I mean, it's not wrong. It's like, it's giving them personality, regardless of the relationship.
Boring. How
about Articuana?
Gotta say though, Ben, Ghost
You notice how the editor is like clipping out all of the dead space between the lines? That's also a great way to get around copyright.
sounds less like a cool nickname and more like a creative extraterrestrial slur. You might want to workshop that one. Bottom line, the Omnitrix is more than just a toy. It's part of Ben's identity and he grows to love it. Now, this is framed as a good thing in the show. It's a positive part of Ben's journey to become a hero. But when you take a step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, it seems to have literally changed or rewritten parts of Ben's
Like this whole thing too, I'm wondering like if they made this or if this is pulled somewhere. I don't think I've seen this before.
personality to be dependent on the Omnitrix, which, by the way, also lines up with the actual mechanics of how the Omnitrix works, and it's unsettling to say the least. So, what's really happening to Ben when it's hero time? How does this actually work? Well, believe it or not,
See, another reboot background.
but the best insight
All
we get into
aesthetics,
the
though.
logistics of the Omnitrix here comes from the scripts of the show.
Oh. Which script is this? Oh, this is the script of B movie. Because there is a lot of available scripts online on DwayneMcDuffie.com of Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. Although there are large differences depending on the script that you read between the final script and, I mean, between the final episode and the scripts. Like there's some where it's like night and day. Like Time Heals and the one with the Riddles and the robot. Busy Box, the script version versus the actual episodes are like incredibly different. So I'm hoping if they do use script sources, they're not using the ones that got rewritten by the time the episode came out.
In the script for an episode of Ultimate Alien, we're told that the Omnitrix functions by releasing an Omnitrix pill into Ben's bloodstream.
I did read that. I was waiting to get my Ultimate Alien Dwayne McDuffie video out before acknowledging that. And you do see that in UAF, that that sphere like injecting itself into Ben's bloodstream, for the longest time we had no idea what that was. It's like I feel like this is the first time it's ever been acknowledged in like any legitimate way. But for the most, I mean, I guess we kind of knew just from like, you know, Ben hits the Omnitrix, then we see this glowing orb in this red background. I always imagined it like going through his bloodstream, so that is what the script says. But it also begs the question, is that only how it works for the recalibrated Omnitrix and the Ultimatrix, as that wasn't in the classic or Omniverse? But you can assume, like, it's probably a similar method, like retroactively canon, that there was a pill in the classic series too.
The pill then initiates a mutation process, which literally merges the selected alien DNA with Ben's human DNA. This more or less lines up with all of the campy, overly expositional.
Interesting to put a Stinkfly here on the cannibal transformation.
In the actual show.
There it is. Yeah, so like when this first came out, and for like a long time, like literally up until that script, like we had no confirmation on whatever the hell this was. It was just like we just kind of accepted that this was part of the transformation sequence. I also imagine it's not like a literal pill, like a capsule pill. I think it's just like the energy orb, and they call it like a pill, just to describe it in the script instead of like, you know, like ambiguous like DNA merging into Ben. It's like I don't think it's like a pill where maybe if you paused Ben transforming somehow and like did surgery and took it out and you can hold it like a pill. But that's how I see it. The script says pill. We have no other way. It's just hard to imagine it's a literal pill.
But hey, get this. Because of this, we can figure out pretty much
it could just be, yeah, Levi, you're right. It could just be the Omni Energy too, because that was in the classic series. So I imagine it's like, that's Omni Energy. And they're just calling it a pill in the script just to describe it somehow.
The Omnitrix has a timeout feature. Yeah, early on in the series, the timeout feature with the Omnitrix is an important part of Ben's transformations, both creating drama during the franchise's fights and protecting Ben. Yeah, in more than one instance, Ben has to fight off possession from his alien forms, whether it be through their body's natural instincts or the sentience of the alien overpowering Ben's consciousness. The big example of that is Ghost Freak, who grows stronger inside of the Omnitrix and can...
Like also fighting against Wrath's rage is like a big part of transforming into Wrath. He can't just be an apoplexy, and he has to also submit to Wrath's personality.
He's transformed. That's a gross oversimplification of like a giant storyline, but it's a whole thing.
Wilted Northern.
So, knowing that Ben has a whole lot of hero time with that timeout feature is a nice security blanket. Inevitably, Ben will flash red and transform back into his normal state. And if the mutation process is basically like taking a real pill, naturally, that would also eventually wear off.
Oh, so we're really going hard on that pill thing then. Okay. All right, sure. I mean, like, yeah, let's see where this goes.
When you have a headache in real life and you take a painkiller like Tylenol, the pill's dissolved in your stomach, absorbed, and then makes its way into your bloodstream. This is also why these sorts of pills eventually wear off. Like, this is a very, very simplified explanation, but organs like the liver and kidney eventually clean it out of your bloodstream and out of your system. If the Omnitrix pill works anything like Earth medicine and is absorbed into the bloodstream, which eventually clears it out, all of a sudden, the Omnitrix's timeout features make a lot of sense. It serves as a heads up that Ben is out of time, that the Omnitrix pill is working its way out of his system, and that he's going to revert to his natural state.
So yeah, all of that could be true, more in a sense of Omni Energy, but yeah, I didn't expect them to take the pill literally, because I'm all but absolutely confident that it's not a literal pill. But I mean, just replace pill with Omni Energy, all that still makes sense.
That all sounds well and good, but, well, all of a sudden, this should become a big problem for Ben here, because the Omnitrix also has something called the Master Control Function. This is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Unlocking the Master Control Function means that Ben can transform into...
It's funny, because we just had the Crisis on Infinite Mirths crossover, and Stinkfly was the alien used to highlight Ben's representation. You see classic Ben transform into Stinkfly, and yeah, Stinkfly's right here. So I'm wondering, like, to non like obsessive Ben 10 fans like myself, does Stinkfly seem like he's one of like the guys, like the main, like, because if you asked us, you know, it'd be like, oh, Heat Blast, Forearms, Accelerate, Humongosaur. Nothing against Stinkfly. It's just interesting that like we're starting to see a resurgence of Stinkfly, like starting to become an icon for Ben. Hi, Mochi.
any alien he imagines with only a single thought. He has open access to all 1,900,000 and something catalog species, and as long as the power reserve isn't being exhausted faster than the Omnitrix can recharge itself, he can stay transformed for however long he wants. Yeah, this is basically like taking the training wheels off a bike. A bike that's faster than the speed of light. I'm still not over that.
Now, I don't think the Omnitrix runs out of power in Master Control mode. Now, does that make sense? Like, somehow the Omnitrix, like, it can run out of power, but if you put on Master Control, all of a sudden it has infinite power? No, but neither does turning into aliens. So it's just, I guess in a way it could, maybe, but from everything we've ever seen about the Master Control, like, there's no time limit, there's no low battery. Somehow being in Master Control mode bypasses all of that. And I've never understood it either, but you know, from what we can gather from the show, that's how it works. So I would say like timing out and all of that isn't a factor when he's in Master Control mode.
So Ben can now control when, what, and how long he transforms. Presumably he's sort of overridden the Omnitrix pills and is getting more into his system. Shouldn't that be a good thing?
Thank you for the donation, Red Sky. The power may be referring to the DNA wave. Oh yeah, like the defense mechanism against like Kevin, or like in Secret of the Omnitrix, it was used there too.
Well, it would be, except for one thing. The longer Ben is transformed, the worse that would be for him. And we know that thanks to a source that hits really close to home for me, trivia. See, back in the day, Cartoon Network would occasionally run marathons.
Okay, all right. It might get a little messy here. So, yeah, you know, pop-up trivia. Most of it was written during the Alien Force era. I imagine a large amount of it was pulled from information and statements from the classic series crew, but there is a lot of trivia in here that is either no longer canon or retroactively canon to the classic series to help promote Alien Force. Like, there was a pop-up trivia thing that like seeded Gwen's Anodite heritage, and there's no way that was written by a classic series person. So it's tough with pop-up trivia because it's not black and white, like all or nothing. Like, we either believe it all or we don't believe it. Like with pop-up trivia, it's like some of it's true and some of it's not, and you would only really know if you understood the context of everything else. That's what makes, I don't know, like talking about Ben 10 lore so difficult. It's because like, oh well, how come this source is true this time but this other time it's not true? And literally, like, that's just how it is. So it's a bit confusing. But, you know, this fact, Wild Mud is a Vulpamancr from the poisonous planet Vulpine. Well, actually, no, that's not true. That's a type. I mean, that could be a typo, or it's not true because it's Vulpin without the E at the end. So already right here, you know, you can already have a basis for, well, maybe let's not trust the pop-up trivia completely. Oh, thank you for the donation. It's referring to when Ben cures multiple DNA aliens during the hybrid war and he passes out then transforms back while in Master Control. Yes, that did happen. You're absolutely right. Although that was using a function that the Omnitrix doesn't typically do. I feel like I was more of talking in terms of like being an alien. Like in Master Control, I don't think Ben would time out from being an alien. Yeah, it's see, that's also tricky because they really don't explain Master Control much at all. You kind of just got to put pieces together. Because the reason he timed out there was exactly what you said, like because he was using the DNA alien cure, which is a completely separate. But we also, hold on, I'm thinking more now. We also did see in War of the Worlds Part 2 when Ben was going to do the DNA wave on the galactic scale through the hybrid jump gate. It did force Ben to transform back from Humongosaur to use up all his power. So I guess that does beg the question: could Ben potentially run out of power in Master Control mode? I think maybe if he uses all the power in one go, but I think if he's just like, he stays an alien, and it's sort of like how some car batteries, like they charge themselves as you drive. That's how I imagine Master Control working, is it's like it's recharging as it's active. But if he was going to do some type of like big insane Omnitrix function and blow it all in one go, like curing the DNA aliens on a galactic scale, he would run out of power.
of their shows. During these, little bits of trivia would pop up.
Leboans have ferocious appetites and will eat anything, including their own kind. See, that could technically still be canon. But, you know, then we meet the Leboans in Omniverse, and they seem a lot more civilized. It's hard to imagine, you know, Cujo and Scout, the Leboans in Omniverse, being cannibals, I guess. It's the same with the Florana Wildvine. We see in Secret of the Omnitrix, the average Florana is like vicious and like very animalistic, and then in Omniverse we meet Pax, who's like basically a human Wildvine in terms of like sentience and personality.
On the screen, giving viewers a bit more insight into the
Scare left his planet using the probe and search. This could still be true.
shows and their universes. Ben 10 had a ton
Ben has a habit of making a bat first. Yeah, that's more of just like filling up space.
of these, but the one that I want to focus on here, one of the bits of trivia for season 2,
Prevent the alien DNA from attaching permanently to its host. Okay, well, see, that's. I'm just gonna let this play. Let's see where he goes.
Episode 8 reads, the Omnitrix's time limit is to prevent the alien DNA attaching permanently to its host. Yep, you heard that right. Permanently attaching to its host. That means that if Ben were one of these aliens long enough, he'd permanently transform into it. The
I don't think that's how it works. I don't. Because there's a lot that happens in the show to contradict it. Like, Ultimate Alien, Ben 10,000 Returns. Paradox says Albedo accidentally transformed into Alien X and was stuck motionless for almost a year. So if you can be an alien for almost a year and it's still not permanently transform you, because like Paradox phrases it in a way where like eventually he got out of it, especially because he put a cap on it, like almost a year, not like a year so far. Because Paradox, you know, in timelines, he can see before and after. He's omniscient in a way. So he would know the exact length of time. So it's like you can be an alien for an entire year and still not get stuck. And the thing telling you that it gets stuck comes from the pop-up trivia versus what happens in the show. And we've seen Ben be an alien for a few hours even, which is nothing compared to a year, but still. In the classic series, when he got Master Control the first time and Back with a Vengeance, he was Stinkfly for hours, Gwen says. But the time limit is typically like 10 minutes or so when Ben uses an alien in classic series. So if you're going to connect the dots as if like the time limit exists to stop Ben from being permanently merged with the alien DNA, and they set the time limit for 10 minutes, I feel like that would imply being an alien for longer than 10 minutes would already be damaging in some way. Like, oh, 10 minutes is it any longer? But then, you know, he's Stinkfly for hours. There's Alone Together where Ben's Swampfire for at least more than 10 minutes. Like, definitely more than 10 minutes. We don't know the length of time. But when he's walking behind Rhiney, Albedo is Alien X for a year. So there's a lot of instances where Ben is an alien for an extremely long period of time. Oh, thank you for the donation. But then an OV lifeform lock exists. Exactly. There's a whole function in the Omnitrix where it specifically locks you as an alien. And Ben was Bullfrag for a couple hours, couple days, maybe even a couple weeks. We don't really know the Frogs of War timeline, but absolutely longer than 10 minutes. So if there's a function that specifically locks you as an alien, then why would the timeout function exist to protect you from being an alien? Like that's where that's kind of what I'm talking about, where like you can determine what pop-up trivia facts are or aren't true based on the grander context of the show. So from in the show, we've seen Ben and a comment in Albedo be an alien for a ridiculously long amount of time. I'm sure I could think of more if I really sat down and tried. And the only way we get the information where the timeout protects Ben is from the pop-up trivia. I think Eon in Race Against Time said something like that too, where he was just like, do you know why the Omnitrix only keeps you an alien for 10 minutes at a time? It's so that the DNA doesn't overwhelm you. But also, you know, Eon didn't make the Omnitrix. He could just very well be wrong. And also Race Against Time is not canon anymore. Well, it's canon in an alternate timeline. We got a couple donations to read out. from Alpha Omega. I mean, if he stays one alien for too long, he can start to lose control of his other aliens, like Asmith said about feedback. I think that's more of like a psychological thing than like a physical or a genetic thing. Because of like, you know, the way that it affects Ben's decision making, or like he becomes addicted to the feel of feedback. I don't think there's any like literal thing that, you know, using an alien too much would be detrimental. I feel like that was more about, you know, Ben, if you keep relying on this alien, it's going to corrupt you, versus like it's going to genetically damage you. We got another one that says, in classic, Ben10K, thank you for the donation, by the way, Deadpool Plays Gaming. Ben10K, if I remember correctly, it was implied to be accelerate for like days, so that contradicts it. It did imply that Ben was accelerate for a while, and another pop-up trivia says he patrols the planet as accelerate. I don't think we got the word days specifically, but it could be reasonable to believe he was accelerate for a few days. I mean, the albedo feat alone, being an alien for almost a year, like that pretty much settles it. But, you know, the more examples we have, the better. So far, I feel like the theory is falling apart a little bit because they're taking very obscure information, like the script calling it a pill and taking that super literal, like it's an actual pill. And also that one pop-up trivia fact where a lot of scenes in the show contradict it. But I don't know. Maybe they can wrap it up in a nice way. Let's see where this goes.
Matrix pill wouldn't work its way out of his system, and his DNA wouldn't be able to turn back. So how then can he be turning back into Ben once he's unlocked the master control function and his DNA is permanently changed? Well, when
more donations, thank you. Oh, look at that! They put Ghost Freak up there. That's neat. Thank you, Mr. Mister. This is also putting in a lot of stock in the prototype. Official Omnitrix probably fixes this. Very true. The official Omnitrix, the Omniverse one, does have a lot of corrections that the prototype, the recalibrated, and the Ultimatrix Omnitrices were at fault with. Make this a breakdown. If I had time, that's why I'm doing the live reaction. This was very unexpected. I saw this video came out and I was just like, I've never done a live stream reaction before. This is sort of an experiment. But yeah, I mean, typically, you know, I would spend days on this and like, you know, have some fancy graphics flying around. Maybe not like to this level. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the video, but it is interesting where they're getting their information from.
He's fully in control of his transformations, things look a little bit different. Before, when it wore off like a pill being sweated out of his system, the flash of the transformation was red. But now, after Ben is completely in control, when Ben goes default, the flash is bright green.
That's another classic only thing, which I actually dislike. Like in the Omniverse, when we start featuring 11-year-old Ben again, when he transforms back to human, it's a green flash, and that Ben and this Ben are the same Bens. So that's just an aesthetic thing. And I wish they kept it. I wish classic Ben always transformed back with a red flash. It's much more appealing. Thanks for the donation. We got Dedarex. The timer was just the Omnitrix set to demo mode. That's funny. And Blaze Mizuki. In Omniverse, Ben only using feedback is bad. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it seems like that whole arc was like a mental obstacle Ben had to overcome. I don't think like Asmith was being super literal about like using this alien transformation is gonna affect you genetically, especially, you know, with all the context of everything I just said between albedo and bullfrag and the lifeform lock. Oh, thank you for the donation right here. Thank you for responding, Kuro. I felt like this was one of the worst theories they had. Literally grasping at straws. No in-show lore supports this. Like I said, like this might be my first like film theory video ever, so I can't really compare this to their other works. I imagine I must have seen some of their videos before, but I mean, it's a great video. Look at, they're not doing the Omnitrix border anymore though, but they do have the Ghost Freak and Ben, so that's fine. I wonder what this background is though. This looks like it could be from the reboot, but yeah, I mean, it's very well made, very well edited, and it seems like they did do a fair amount of research. Like, you wouldn't get that pill statement unless you were doing some digging, so they did some digging. I think the issue just comes with them not knowing the show enough to weed out the information on what is and isn't canon. But I'm liking the idea, like, if the Omnitrix, if there was a storyline where if Ben's an alien for too long, there's some type of drawback to it. It's a very interesting narrative, and I like how they're trying to make it work. But from what I'm gathering, it doesn't seem to be accurate. Oh, thank you for this donation. Speaking of breakdowns, I really enjoy them. Looking forward to them when they come out. I got to catch up on the OV ones soon. Thank you. Yeah, breakdowns are currently on hold for now, as I'm finishing up our bigger projects, but I'm super eager to get back to them. I gotta make the breakdowns part 2 video first, though. We got Davey Bones. Thank you. I don't think film theory is supposed to be taken literally. That's an interesting way to put it. I mean, whether or not like the theory works, like I'm still being entertained by this video. Like this alone, like I don't even care if it's right or not. I'm just glad that they decided to dip their toes into Ben 10. And it's very cool to see that they're putting something like this together. Oh, we just got another donation without a statement, but thank you, Scarscream. Apologies if I butchered that. And Ren, hi Kuro, I miss you. Hop on Discord after we cook it. After this, I am gonna get back to working on 5YL. But I mean, thank you. I'll try to start streaming again at least. And then we got Yo-Yo YT. Thank you. I think they're using the pill as an analogy. That's how I imagined it being scripted in the Dwayne McDuffie script. I think film theory has taken it pretty literally, but you know, it doesn't really matter, I guess. You could just replace pill with omni energy and their theory probably still flows pretty well. Vandering Station, I don't really blame them for not being able to parse what parts are in art canon, especially if we can't 100% agree ourselves. Exactly. That's what makes Ben 10, being a Ben 10 fan, super frustrating, is because, like, even so, like, you can have a different opinion on what should be considered canon. Some people take some statements very, very much to heart. Even if they do contradict the show, it'll just be like, well, maybe the show was just wrong this episode. And it's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, generally, it really is hard to know what is or isn't true unless you know Ben 10. Which is terrible, to be honest. It would be so easy to just be like, all that pop-up trivia is true or all of it isn't true. It's very much like a case-by-case basis, and it's annoying. Power Storm, this is gonna be the last one I'm gonna read out, if any more come, just so I can get through this video, and then I'll read some more. I will read any more that I get. It's just I'm gonna play the video right after this. Thank you for taking your time with the breakdowns. I've been greatly enjoying all your videos in 5YL. Thank you for tuning in. Everything that I make for the Ink Tank is a blast to put together, so you know, it's great that people enjoy it. I'm not just amusing myself, like other people are getting stuff out of this too.
Basically identical to the light created by every other alien transformation we've seen throughout the franchise.
Hold on.
After Ben is completely in control, when Ben goes default, the Flash is bright green. Basically identical to the light created by every other alien transformation we've seen throughout the franchise.
I've been yearning for this moment.
Oh, wow. Look at that. It's like a painted art style in CG.
What we're seeing...
I don't know about y'all, but I do try to make an effort to watch ads when I get them. I'm not right now because I'm live streaming, but like... also, you know, it helps out the channels, and if there's a channel I really like, I'll watch your entire ad. Like, you know, get that back.
Here isn't a transformation wearing off, it's a completely different transformation. Ben is permanently an alien here, and an Omnitrix pill is mutating him back into a human.
You know, I kind of like that. That's a very clever way to think about it. Using the Flash colors to identify that Ben is now Stinkfly, and he's turning into a human here. That's very interesting. I like that a lot.
His DNA is being altered back from this alien transformation into the DNA of Ben Tennyson, which does check out with how the Omnitrix works.
But if the theory really strictly relies on the color of the Flash being the indicator, then once Alien Force rolls around, it doesn't work.
Basically, when a new alien touches the Omnitrix, that specific alien's DNA becomes the basis for any future transformations into that species. So Ben was just the human DNA sample taken by the Omnitrix. And just some extra proof here that Ben's body is the basis for the human DNA stored in the Omnitrix. Well, there's a recurring villain in the series named Albedo. He was the assistant.
Ooh, we're bringing up Albedo. Interesting.
The guy who originally created the Omnitrix, but he won.
Oh, thank you for the donation. this theory is a hard pill to swallow. Ah, but that's
the
good.
Omnitrix for himself. Albedo eventually tries to make an Omnitrix of his own, but when he puts it on, it reacts with the original Omnitrix that Ben has. It's like some weird version of their alien cloud storage got synced up and changed the setting on Albedo's Omnitrix. It suddenly thinks that its host is supposed to be human and transforms Albedo into an exact copy of Ben.
I love how they're putting this together. This is some actual like how do you say it? I don't know. I like this idea how they're connecting these dots. This is also tricky because that's Albedo's Omnitrix. They say Albedo in UAF and Albedo in OV. I've just gotten used to saying Albedo. Because of the fact that Azimuth and Myax and Albedo built the original Omnitrix, and Albedo did this one in secret on his own volition, and to get it to work, it had to synchronize to Ben. I'm not sure you could relate that to the real Omnitrix and say like, oh, then that means the default setting for this for whoever wears the Omnitrix is Ben Tennyson. I think that's just Albedo, because, you know, we've seen Azimuth wear the Omnitrix, we've seen Vilgax wear the Omnitrix, and it's always just you put it on and now you're the new default. Thank you for the donation. They're just going a ship of Thesis, but instead of the ship of Ben. Oh, I get what you're saying. Like you replace one part. At what point is the ship still the same ship? I pretty much butchered whatever the ship of Thesis. I forgot about it. What would I do with my own Omnitrix? Backflips.
Eventually, his alien DNA...
Thank you for the donation. No, I mean that's a loaded question. I would try to do very practical things like gardening, building roads, stuff like that. Helping out the little guy with my aliens. You know, if there's like a sinkhole or something, I could turn it into Diamond Head, smooth it over. There you go, buddy. And another donation from Techno Bubble. If that was true, Albedo would have turned into a buff-ass Ben.
With Ben's, leaving Albedo permanently transformed, trapped in a body that is not his.
I am stuck in a sticky, sweaty, noisy, hungry, hairy, smelly teenage human body.
Yeah, this is all hinging on Albedo's Omnitrix not being able to exist without Ben's. Like, I don't think you can relate this to Ben's device, like the Omnitrix proper.
Wow. He really is.
But it's very neat connection.
Again, this
I'm liking
is a
this.
kid's show. That's dark conceptually. And remember, this isn't just his appearance that's getting altered. This is happening on a DNA level, and the Omnitrix can change your personality. Albedo's consciousness is trapped in a snapshot of Ben's body, and this has a huge impact on him as a character. All of a sudden, he's forced to live with a teenage Ben's bad habits, intense food cravings, intelligence, or lack thereof. And eventually, Albedo's...
That's not true, though. Albedo is still as smart as his Galvin form. In Ben's body, and it's been hinted that Albedo just likes chili fries and he blames it on Ben, but Albedo does very much pick up a lot of Ben's habits being stuck as him.
Omnitrix is broken, leaving him with no way to ever transform back. All of this just confirms
until you get to Omniverse, though, right? Well, I guess that's not relevant for his theory. You know, the future of Albedo's arc and the other, like getting the Ultimatrix and this and that, it doesn't seem like it matters to his theory. But they're kind of setting this up like that's it for Albedo, like that's what happened and that's the end of his story. Like there's so much after that, and he does transform back quite a few times after this.
That the Omnitrix's host will remain biologically mutated until the Omnitrix releases another pill to mutate the host again. So, okay, Ben's DNA is the human template that the Omnitrix is using. Ben is completely mutated into an alien and then mutated back into a human. Why does that matter? Well, I mean...
Thank you for the donation. What's the highest donation you've ever received, or at least from what I remember? I remember a stream a couple of years back, right after I interviewed Ryan Kelly, who was the live-action Ben in Alien Swarm. There was like a donation war going on, and he donated like $100 at one point, and then somebody else like donated like 110, so he donated like 120, and they were seeing like who can donate more. And I was sitting there like, wow, this is fantastic. This is gonna make these projects so much easier now that we have a higher budget. So like that little donation war was very amusing for any of you if you were a part of it, but also, you know, any donations are fantastic for our projects. It pretty much just goes straight towards, okay, well, how can we use these money to get these projects done faster?
Just think this through.
So from what I remember, a couple $100.
Sure, his original physiology was copied over into the Omnitrix, but his DNA, his molecules and cells,
got all
even his
rearranged.
very personality, all of it was irreversibly mutated. DNA is incredibly important to making a person who they are. Even though every human's DNA is 99.9% identical from one person to another, that 0.1% difference is enough that created billions of different people with unique personalities and experiences and traits. So imagine how completely different an alien's DNA must be, how different that must make Ben every single time he transforms. Ben Tennyson, as we knew him, more or less died in episode 1, the very moment the Omnitrix first triggered his transformation into Heat Blast. He's not turning back into Ben with every transformation, he's being remutated back into a human that was based.
That is sort of true. There is some basis for that. Like, in Ultimate Alien, when Ben was wearing his plumber suit, and he transformed, when he turned it back, it, like, remade his outfit, like, his green jacket. But I don't know. I feel like there's also been evidence to support it is, like, storing away Ben. But I don't know. I feel like that could be acceptable. I think either way, like, that actually works. Like, it's just remaking Ben's body over and over again. Oh, we have a couple more donations. I should tackle these. It almost worked and sort of explains his character reversion and needing to relearn his lessons if that theory was true. Yeah, maybe. That's an interesting way to put it because it remakes him. He's got to relearn his lessons. Thank you. And oh wow, thank you, Blaze. You deserve it for being the GOAT. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Oh, I can heart things. Oh, I should be hearting all of these. In fact, that'd be a good way to like make sure I'm reading these if like I heart react to them. We got another one. Now they're just being edgy. I wouldn't say that. There is some grounds for that. Like I feel like Ben's being remade. It could go either way. I feel like that there's enough to go either direction. So no real break in the theory there.
On that original Ben, with the firmware of his brain updated to just love the Omnitrix. And the worst part, this might end up destroying Ben entirely in the long run. See, if you watch the whole run of the Ben 10 franchise, you'll notice that the producers did the smart thing and had Ben age with each new series, growing up with the audience who started watching the original.
Thank you for the donation. I like how they made a video on a classic like Ben 10, but they took the pill way too literally for my liking. Yeah, I agree.
And there's more than one episode where we meet future versions of Ben, so we know that he will continue to age into adulthood. So, as Ben ages, the Omnitrix is keeping up with him. And given the mechanics of how we know the Omnitrix works...
See, that's a wild clip to see out of context, too. Like, listening to what the narrator's saying right now, and then seeing him grow like this, if you don't watch Ben 10, you're going to think, like, he means the Omnitrix is making Ben turn into this. That's funny.
Out here today, that means that it's copying his DNA over and over and over as he ages, rescanning and updating its Ben sample with every recalibration. As the series goes on, Ben is transforming back into a copy of 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 his original body. And
that could be
just
true.
Like a JPEG being saved over and over and over again, eventually, the Ben we know may be completely unrecognizable.
Though that I don't get. Like, I don't think there's ever been an instance where Ben turned back and it was like, you know, any different at all from what he was beforehand, except for like the plumber suit thing. But I mean, like on his body, that's a bit of a stretch. Like him, whether or not he turns back into human or they're just remaking his human body every time, that has no effect on the deterioration. It's always the exact same thing. Unless you want, like, yeah, of course, because we even see the future. Like, they even have B-roll of Ben 10,000s there. He's fine. So that doesn't have any evidence to support it. It's more of just, oh, wouldn't this be neat if we related to JPEG deterioration to Ben's Omnitrix? And it's that's cool. I like that. I like that concept a lot, but it doesn't work for the show.
A pixelated mess of an outdated meme. But hey, that's just a theory.
That was neat.
Film theory. And cut.
Oh, that's where it comes from.
That's just a theory. A film theory.
I've never heard this genuinely before. I've only heard people reference it. That's fucking crazy. I gotta hear that one more time.
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And
there it
cut.
is. That's my first authentic experience hearing that.
Up next on Film Theory. Wait, hold up. Did you hear that? Rewind it and play it again.
I'm down $2.4 billion since this new company moved in across the street.
This right here is proof that the Smiling Friends are committing charity fraud, so...
That sounds funny. That could be fun to check out. I do have another donation. The Omnitrix transforms you into the peak form of the species. It's why Ben10K is such a Giga Chad. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for the donation. In fact, it's quite the opposite of deteriorating. It literally makes Ben optimal. Like, he's the peak of whatever he transforms into. And I like to headcanon that's why Ben10K, all of them are so jacked in the future. Because how does Ben turn into that? Like, that's super extra. Saucy Mongoose, thanks for the donation. The theory isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like I said, I have no frame of reference whether or not it was going to be good or bad. But I enjoyed it. Digital World Archive, Ben's inconsistent personality explained. Yeah, that could be true. So overall, here's my thoughts. Fantastic video. Like I said, like regardless of whether or not this is true, this was truly amazing to see. They were cutting out different frames and moving them around. They were doing animations. They dedicated fonts. They had that little joke of the narrator with the Omnitrix on his arm. It was great. I loved this. It was a very great watch. The pill thing, you know, I've already talked about that a lot. It was taken very literally, but I don't think it mattered. The pop-up trivia fact where it says it prevents Ben from merging his DNA with the host. We've seen in the show in many times that that's not how it works, so I don't think that pop-up trivia is true. Ben being recreated every time he turns back, it could or couldn't be true. I feel like it can go either way, but saying that deteriorates him like a JPEG isn't true. And like, you know, with the peak specimen, it is quite literally the opposite. And then using albedo as a reference for the Omnitrix creating Ben as the default only works because albedo's Omnitrix couldn't exist without Ben's, and they synchronized. Without, like, with the actual real prime Omnitrix, anybody is the default when you put it on. It doesn't create a new default. Benethesis. Yeah, someone made that joke too. That's great. Thank you for the donation, Caps Lock. And then we got another. Though that's just a theory meme is from Game Theory. Oh, okay. I think that's what Kellen was on before, more than Film Theory. Film Theory is sort of a sister channel that also uses the catchphrase. All right. Well, either way, like that was my first real like, oh, I heard it, and it's like, that's how it goes. So thank y'all for tuning in. Looks like we've been going for about an hour. Wow, we really stretched that. But this was fun. Maybe I can do more live reactions like this. It's certainly a lot easier than editing a whole video. I would love to get back to videos as soon as I can, but for now the upload hiatus must persist to get the final 3 episodes of 5YL plus and Beyond the Movie finished. Ben overdosed on his Omni pills. Oh, geez. That's kind of funny. But yeah, overall this video, I would give it like 8 out of 10. -2. Based on no ranking system, by the way. Like I have no method. I'm just saying shit right now. But yeah, 8 out of 10. You know, some of the sources are a little dodgy and doesn't support the theory, but this was a blast. This was fantastic. I hope everybody watches this video and shows their support. If anything, just to show support for Ben 10. And maybe I'll check out more Film Theory too. I mean, this was very amusing. Oh, we got more donations flying in. Only real problem I had, thank you Mooney Knight for the donation. Only real problem I had was them calling the Omnitrix addictive, actively making Ben want to wear it. Yeah, I took that as just like sort of an aside, sort of thing. I don't know if that was also to support the theory, but if it was, then that's not true. Unless it's like a psychological thing. Again, it's not like there's something biologically making him addicted. Like you can psychologically get addicted to anything. So like he could get addicted to using the Omnitrix, but I wouldn't support that with any type of functionality of the device on a physical level. So basically Danny Phantom's unghost sequence. I've heard those comparisons before. That's great. Thank you for the donation. This guy experience. And then we got Patrick. Oh, hold on. I'm starting to get behind. Where am I? Yeah, Patrick, thank you. What about Alien X? Is he physically shown with the Bellicus and Serena in that one subspace? So what's up with that? That's also another a whole realm of topics. Like, you could argue that inside of the mind space is just for the audience, and that's not physically happening. So we don't really know what we're looking at when we see that, unless you want to count for Paradox appearing into there. But Paradox can do some crazy shit. He can move the Forge of Creation and build the Perplexahedron. I'm sure he can show up in like a metaphysical way in Alien X's mind, no problem. And we got another from Technobubble. Thank you very much. It would have been cool that the deterioration thing actually happened to Albedo, since his Omnitrix isn't as good as Azimuth's. Very true. Like, see, the thing is, like, if this theory was correct, I would like it. I feel like there's a lot of great storylines you can build from it, but it's not supported by the show. But yeah, I was just in the middle of wrapping up. I feel like we've covered pretty much everything. And if there's anything else y'all want me to react to like this, I wouldn't be opposed to doing this again. This was very fun. It was really cool sitting here in the chat with y'all and digging through this video in real time. But until next time, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, oh, one last donation. Can't wait for the pill lore in 5 Great stream, by the way, ton of fun. Yeah, I guess I gotta put the pill lore in there somehow. Thank you. And keep it fizzy.